In this last video on significant figures in measurement, we're going to focus on looking at numbers and determining how many sig figs are in that number. Okay, so here is that list of rules that we looked at in the last video, keeping in mind that you have leading zeros, captive, or trailing zeros, and those will determine whether or not they are significant. Now, you're welcome to use the rules that are listed, but I'm going to show you a trick to determine sig figs in a measurement. So we're going to underline the leftmost non-zero digit and continue underlining until we get to the rightmost non-zero digit. And then we're going to stop and ask one question. Do I see a decimal anywhere? Doesn't matter where. If so, I'm going to underline all the way to the right, including the zeros. And if not, I'm going to stop at that rightmost non-zero digit. So let me show you how this works. In each example, we need to figure out how many significant figures are contained in each of the following measurements. Now we do have to look out for those exact numbers. And thankfully we don't see any equalities, so there won't be any exact by definition issues here. Okay, those are going to come up when we're looking at unit conversion examples and we're dealing with conversion factors. But for now, we're looking for that exact by counting. Okay, so we're looking for units that have an entity that cannot be divided into fractions and keep their entity. So an example here would be the 12 tablets. Okay, we're going to assume that they are counting up those tablets and that they cannot be broken up into fractions and keep their entity. So we're going to go ahead and call that exact if we have 12 tablets. And so because of that, it's going to be infinite sig figs, which means it will not determine our sig figs when we're looking at calculations. Okay, so the rest of these are all measured numbers. We're looking at mass, volume, density, and joules, which is an energy of unit, or sorry, a unit of energy. Okay, so let's start back up at the top. And using our rules, we are going to underline the number on the far left. And we're going to continue to underline until we get to the last non-zero digit on the right, which is the 7. Okay, and then the last step is to ask, do I see a decimal? And I don't, so I'm going to stop. And so therefore, I've underlined 3 non-zero digits, and so this is going to be 3 significant figures. Okay, those zeros are important for magnitude, they matter, but they're not significant. Okay, in the third example, we're going to start with our leftmost non-zero digit, and then we're going to underline until we get to the rightmost non-zero digit, and we've already included all the numbers, so we don't have to check for that decimal in this case. And so if we count up all the digits, you get 7 significant figures. Okay, next example, this is scientific notation, and remember for scientific notation, all we care about is the coefficient. So remember that the number before the multiplication symbol, that's what we call our coefficient, which is separate from the power. Okay, so looking at that coefficient, we're going to start with the non-zero digit on the left and underline until we get to the non-zero digit on the right. And then we ask one question, do I see a decimal in that number? And I do, right? Okay, doesn't matter where it's at, but the fact that I see that decimal, I'm going to keep underlining all the way to the right. And so that 0 is significant. It's a trailing 0 where a decimal is present. And total, we've got 5 sig figs here. And again, we ignore that power of 10 when we're counting sig figs. Okay, next example, we start with our leftmost non-zero digit. Okay, so we don't include the leading zeros. Those are never significant. And then we underline until we get to the rightmost non-zero digit, and there's nowhere else for us to go to the right, and so we're done. And that's 3 sig figs. Okay, next example, start from the leftmost non-zero digit and go to the rightmost non-zero digit. Yes, I do see a decimal, and so I'm going to keep underlining, and I get a total of 3 sig figs. That is a trailing 0 with a decimal. Okay, and last example, we start with the leftmost non-zero digit. We're going to ignore those leading zeros, they're placeholders. Go to the rightmost non-zero digit. Yes, I do see a decimal. And so I'm going to keep underlining all the way to the right and include those trailing zeros because a decimal is present. And so we get a total of 4 sig figs there. Okay, so I hope this helps. In the next video series, we are going to focus on significant figures in calculations.